This could go down as the wildest NBA leak in years. A piece of a live stream that was never meant to be seen somehow slipped out. Kyrie Irving finished a broadcast, believed he was completely off air, and then started speaking freely. What came next was a single line that immediately sent shockwaves across the entire league.
"You sure this ain't live? Because I'm tired of pretending LeBron isn't an evil man."
Yes, he actually said it, and believe it or not, that wasn't even the most explosive part. Once you hear the full clip, it becomes clear how much he revealed about what really happened behind the scenes during LeBron's second stint in Cleveland. He touched on power struggles, front office influence, the trade situation, and the so-called brotherhood everyone was sold. Everything fans thought they understood about their relationship suddenly fell apart. Buckle in, because after hearing the rest, that era won't look the same anymore. As soon as the leak stream started circulating, the NBA went into total meltdown mode. Fans everywhere reacted like they had just uncovered something completely new. But anyone who closely followed the Cavaliers in 2017 knew the tension was already there, especially after Irving asked out in July of that year. Now, nearly 8 years later, he has finally confirmed what many people suspected, but never heard stated so directly, that the LeBron era felt controlling and manipulative, and that's not even counting the old awkward clips. Fans quickly began digging through footage, uncovering moments where Irving appeared visibly annoyed during press conferences or sitting on the bench.
Circumstances or...
Don't none of us get a pass tonight. It's not just Kyrie.
There was also that infamous comment comparing LeBron to a father figure, and Irving immediately shut it down without hesitation.
Because that question was crazy. When somebody asked me if LeBron was like a father figure to me, bro, that was crazy, bro. No kizzy. That was a crazy-ass question. He's like a few years older than me.
People went back and rewatched every interaction, and suddenly all those small moments of frustration felt like parts of a much bigger picture. By the time the Twitter meltdown burned out, one thing was obvious. Irving was never just a side character in someone else's legacy. He was a star on his own long before any LeBron drama entered the conversation. Yet some fans, especially LeBron supporters, love to pretend Irving wasn't crucial in 2016. That narrative falls apart fast. He hit the biggest shot of the finals, the go-ahead 3 in Game 7 against the Warriors, a moment that directly sealed LeBron's third championship.
It's not like Kyrie wasn't playing at the same level that Bron was playing at in that run.
So Kyrie saved his ass because Bron sat his scary ass in the corner and said, "Here, Kyrie, I'ma go sit on the side. Here, Kyrie, do it for me."
To really understand why this tension cut so deep, you have to rewind to the very start, all the way back to 2011 when Irving first set foot on the Cleveland floor. Long before LeBron's return, before the trades and power shifts, Irving was viewed as the franchise's golden child, the future everything was being built around.
Kyrie knows the clock, sends it. Got it, Kyrie Irving! At the horn!
He was embraced by the fans, respected inside the locker room, and fully his own man. He wasn't chasing super team fame, control, or power the way LeBron did, and even today, that independence still defines him.
This whole celebrity idea is eroding. The whole fame idea is eroding. That's sold to us, y'all. You got people out here that are human, that are acting every day of their life. They're not even real.
He was a pure hooper, grinding, learning, and shaping his identity without all the noise that usually follows young stars. When the Cleveland Cavaliers selected him first overall in June 2011, the fan base immediately felt that spark. The excitement was real and expectations were high from day one. Coming off a short but electric run at Duke, he didn't need much time to prove himself. From the moment he stepped on the floor, it was obvious he could play. As a rookie, he put up 18.5 points per game, along with 5.4 assists and 3.7 rebounds, shooting nearly 47% from the field and just under 40% from three. Those weren't just solid rookie numbers. That was production you expect from a future star. Winning the 2012 Rookie of the Year award felt inevitable. He received 117 out of 121 first-place votes, and it never felt like a fluke. Over the next few seasons, from 2012 to 2013 and into 2014, Irving continued to level up. He averaged 22.5 points per game in 2012, followed by 20.8 the next year, and by 2014, nobody was calling him a rookie anymore. That first All-Star selection in 2014 was earned, not gifted. He exploded for 31 points and 14 assists in the game and walked away with the All-Star MVP trophy. Yet even with the spotlight growing brighter, Irving stayed quiet. He didn't complain publicly, didn't leak drama, and didn't chase the super team lifestyle. Those who followed him closely, even back to his high school days, knew he was humble and private by nature. He never needed hype to validate himself. For him, it was always about basketball, long before he ever touched an NBA floor. His father drilled that mindset into him early. One phrase stuck with him: "You've got a Bentley engine, and if you don't go, the whole team doesn't go." That belief shaped how he moved. Work hard, stay low-key, and grow without needing attention. The franchise saw him as their guy, the foundation everything would be built on. He wasn't interested in flashy media moments or branding himself as a celebrity, and that's what made him perfect for Cleveland. No hunger for fame. No public battles for control. No clout chasing. Just a young player with a dream, elite skill, and enough talent to make the city believe. By the time 2014 arrived, Irving had earned his respect. He wasn't a prospect anymore. He was an all-star, a franchise centerpiece, and for a brief moment, the heartbeat of Cleveland basketball. That's why the shift hit so hard. This was his foundation, his era, before everything became complicated. Just as Irving was quietly building his legacy and had the city fully behind him, everything changed. Out of nowhere, LeBron James decided he was returning to Cleveland after 4 years away chasing super teams and superstardom. There was no warning, no build-up. The instant that contract was signed, the entire Cavaliers world tilted. And to make it worse, Irving didn't hear it privately. He found out the same way everyone else did, scrolling through headlines, interviews, and breaking news.
I had no idea, man. I found out that Bron was coming back like the rest of you guys. Rest of you guys in the world. I had no inclination. I had no time to prepare. It's not that it was on my bingo card, like, hey, I'm going to spend my career playing with Bron. Like, I had no idea, guys.
The team he had been shaping and building from the ground up no longer felt like his. Overnight, he wasn't the face of the franchise anymore. He was recast as the sidekick. The shift happened fast. The front office priorities changed, the media narrative tilted, and even coaching decisions began orbiting around LeBron. His PR machine, brand managers, and media allies poured into the organization. And suddenly, the stories, interviews, and public perception were being written under an entirely different set of rules.
You know, every time you play with Bron, it's going to be a lot of media attention. It's going to be a lot of back and forth of narratives. It's going to be about a lot of spun narratives. It's going to be a lot of politics.
The Cleveland Cavaliers stopped feeling like just a basketball team. It became a stage built around LeBron with every spotlight in the city locked onto him. Irving was still the same elite talent, still a leader, still doing the work on the court, even as LeBron's presence dominated the attention. But that was only part of the shift. Along with LeBron came an entirely different world. A celebrity-heavy atmosphere, exclusive Hollywood-style events, and private gatherings where image and access mattered more than authenticity. It was a different energy altogether, and it wasn't one Irving ever asked to be part of. Suddenly, high-profile figures and industry power players were around the team's orbit, shaping perception and feeding the media narrative. To Irving, it was obvious that everything had become political, image-driven, and carefully curated. Nothing felt natural anymore. That environment drained him. It felt artificial, heavy, and calculated. And in hindsight, his instincts didn't seem misplaced. Fans would later resurface old photos and clips showing LeBron moving within those same celebrity circles, and people began connecting dots that once felt unrelated. Memes started popping up, controversies resurfaced, and documentaries reignited long-standing rumors surrounding figures from that scene. Whether proven or not, the association alone painted a picture Irving wanted no part of. To him, the game had stopped being about basketball and started becoming something darker, louder, and far removed from the purity he believed in.
Do you know who was responsible for the killing of Tupac Shakur?
No, I don't. I think that Sean now, in my mature mind, had a lot to do with the death of Tupac.
Yeah, that's the same person LeBron is publicly close with. And once that connection became clearer, it was like a switch flipped for fans. People started realizing that Irving had been picking up on that strange energy long before the rest of the world caught on. Looking back, it all made sense. This wasn't insecurity or fragility. He was navigating an environment that suddenly felt unpredictable, performative, and tightly controlled. Everywhere he turned, the dynamics had shifted. The organization, the media, and even locker room conversations were now shaped around LeBron, and that moment became a clear turning point. Everything Irving had built was suddenly viewed through a different lens, but his frustration wasn't rooted in ego or jealousy. By that point, he was already one of the most talented and respected players in the league. This was about recognizing that the system itself had been reshaped into something that didn't. To align with the independence and energy he had always carried, that independence had always defined him. And it wasn't isolated to Cleveland. LeBron's reputation for managing everything, from media narratives to on-court roles and front office decisions, was already well known. The irony is that during his first Cleveland run, LeBron had pointed to a weak front office and lack of co-stars as reasons for leaving. He went to Miami, joined elite talent, and built a super team. Then Cleveland drafted Irving, and suddenly LeBron was back. But this return wasn't just about signing a contract. It was about leverage. Short-term deals with player options gave him control, kept the front office on edge, and ensured every major move aligned with his vision. The ripple effects showed up immediately. The roster began shifting fast. Players LeBron had previous relationships with started arriving. J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Mike Miller, James Jones, Kendrick Perkins. One by one, familiar pieces slid into place like parts of a blueprint only he fully understood. Then came the move that cemented the hierarchy. The Kevin Love trade in August 2014. At that point, it was clear this wasn't Irving's young rising squad anymore. The franchise had been rebuilt around LeBron's preferences, system, and timeline. Even coaching wasn't immune. In January 2016, David Blatt was fired despite a strong record, and Tyronn Lue stepped in, a move many believed aligned with LeBron's wishes. And this pattern didn't stop in Cleveland. It followed him elsewhere. Similar influence appeared later with roster decisions, major trades, and long-term planning in other stops. For Irving, the conclusion became unavoidable. He couldn't fully grow in an environment like that without sacrificing who he was. His style, energy, and rhythm belonged in a different lane. One built on freedom, creativity, and independence.
When you're playing with somebody like Bron or somebody that you guys like to compare him to, it's a different animal. It's a different journey. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're automatically expected to be at the top of the charts, the top of the league.
And if you were watching them during that stretch, from the outside, it all looked flawless. They were marketed as the perfect superstar duo. But behind the smiles, the handshakes, the polished photos, and the carefully crafted sound bites, there were cracks, real ones. Irving's trade request wasn't some sudden or emotional decision. It was the breaking point after years of friction, years of pretending everything was fine. Years of navigating a version of LeBron that most people never saw beyond the locker room. Irving stayed to himself, not because he was distant or antisocial, but because it often felt like no one acknowledged the tension, or how LeBron spoke down to him under the guise of mentorship. He never asked to be talked to like a rookie still learning the basics. That dynamic crossed the line more than once. One moment even went viral, showing LeBron barking instructions at Irving on the bench, sounding less like a teammate and more like a coach lecturing a first-year player.
As we go back to Sage Steele in the studio.
Hey, Mark, yeah, game 2 of our doubleheader is underway in Oakland.
Every time Irving stepped onto the floor, every time the ball found his hands, there was an unspoken order in place. LeBron first, everyone else second. Irving felt it in the tone, the energy, the way LeBron's presence seemed to hang over every moment. This wasn't a partnership, it was control. And that tension didn't stay on the court, it spilled straight into the media. LeBron didn't just lead during games. He shaped perception away from them. The subtweets, the vague interview comments, the carefully chosen lines like, "We need a playmaker," or "Some guys need to grow," those weren't harmless remarks. They were public shots designed to keep his image clean while someone else absorbed the blame. Irving hated being talked about through headlines instead of honest conversations. To him, that was pure disrespect. And when LeBron referred to him as a kid, that was the breaking point. Saying things like he was just trying to help the kid become the best player he could be crossed a line. Irving wasn't a kid, he was a champion and an all-star. Being treated like an inexperienced underling was bad enough, but it didn't compare to what happened in 2017. That was when everything finally snapped. Irving would later say, "I didn't leave Cleveland. I escaped it."
I didn't leave Cleveland. I escaped it.
What many forget is that the Cavaliers quietly explored trading him for Paul George without ever telling him. Irving found out after the fact, and whatever trust he had left disappeared. When the story leaked, LeBron denied knowing anything and immediately focused on protecting his image. But Stephen A. Smith pushed back hard, insisting LeBron did know and cared more about image control than being straight with the truth.
This is the kind of stuff that gets on my last damn nerves about LeBron. So now, months later, let's clean this up to the point where he looks totally innocent and all the, "I never wanted Kyrie to leave. That was never a part of the equation."
And Irving recognized it for exactly what it was. Clear proof that he was never truly valued within that organization. That's when he made the only decision that made sense to him. He cut communication with LeBron completely and formally requested a trade from the Cavaliers. No call, no text. And in his mind, it was fair, considering they had already blindsided him more than once.
Did you speak to LeBron James or talk to LeBron James before you and your representatives met with ownership and let them know that you wanted out?
No.
Why not?
Why would I have to?
To the outside world, it may have looked cold, maybe even petty. But to Irving, it was survival. Why keep opening yourself up to someone who influenced coaching decisions, shaped every narrative, and controlled perception at every turn? He owed himself space, clarity, and the freedom to define who he was without living inside someone else's shadow. When he finally walked away, Irving didn't just leave a team. He exited an entire world. He stepped away from a carefully engineered ecosystem built on control and influence, one that never treated him as an equal. Staying inside, it meant losing pieces of himself, and he wasn't willing to sacrifice his identity just to fit someone else's version of success. And almost immediately after he left, reality set in for Cleveland. Once Irving was gone, the cracks that had been hidden beneath the surface started to widen. That dynasty everyone thought was unstoppable was already fragile. And without Irving, those fractures turned into a full-blown collapse. People forget this part, but Irving wasn't just a co-star, he was the stabilizer. The piece holding all that controlled chaos together. And once he was gone, everything unraveled like it had been held together with tape. On August 22, 2017, Cleveland sent Irving away in exchange for Isaiah Thomas, along with additional pieces. And just to be clear, this wasn't the Hall of Fame Isaiah Thomas. This was the undersized guard from Boston. On paper, it looked solid. But the moment Thomas arrived, the problems showed up. He was injured, the fit was awkward, chemistry felt off, and suddenly the team that once moved with purpose looked slow and disjointed. That's when the truth about Irving's impact became impossible to ignore. With Irving in the lineup, Cleveland posted an offensive rating of 110.9, among the best in the league. Everything flowed. Once he was gone, the offense dipped slightly, but the real collapse came on defense. They dropped all the way to 29th in the league. 29th for a team that had just been in the finals. Their net rating flipped from plus 3.2 to barely above neutral. And that wasn't because LeBron declined individually. It was because the entire system had leaned more heavily on Irving than anyone wanted to admit. Without him, the Cavs weren't a super team anymore. They became a stressed roster grinding through every series. They were pushed to 7 games by Indiana, then dragged to 7 again by a Boston team missing its own stars. Everything felt harder. Everything looked forced. The balance that once made them dangerous was gone, and that absence traced back to the same decision that changed everything. LeBron's need for control eventually backfired, and once Irving escaped it, the entire machine started breaking down. The locker room deteriorated fast. Isaiah Thomas was calling teammates out, Jay Crowder looked completely out of place, and Kevin Love became the default scapegoat. Once again, Cleveland was forced to blow up half the roster at the trade deadline, something real championship teams almost never have to do. That's what happens when you lose the one player who keeps the system balanced. The ripple effect spread across the Eastern Conference almost immediately. Boston rose into contention with Tatum and Brown ascending. Toronto finally broke through and won it all in 2019. Milwaukee surged forward. Philadelphia loaded up. The entire conference opened up the moment Cleveland's grip disappeared. The Irving-LeBron split didn't just change one team. It altered the direction of the league. And then the final domino fell. LeBron left Cleveland again. On July 1, 2018, he packed up and headed to Los Angeles. Once he was gone, Cleveland didn't just decline, they collapsed. The Cavs sank to the bottom of the league with no structure, no identity, and no spark. What remained were empty seats, blown leads, and a franchise struggling to remember what winning even felt like. It had been a LeBron-centered experiment that only functioned because Irving was there balancing the chaos. LeBron came and went like he always does, but Cleveland had already lost the one other player capable of holding everything together. From that point on, their legacies moved in completely different directions. LeBron leaned fully into Hollywood, movies, production companies, the Lakers' spotlight, and empire building. Irving went the opposite way. He chose independence, reclaimed control over his career, and decided for himself where he wanted to be and who he wanted to become. The fan war never stopped. LeBron supporters still place the blame on Irving. Irving supporters fire back with the same reminder. Without that Game 7 shot in 2016, LeBron's finals record looks very different, and that argument holds weight. Irving stayed true to himself, and in the end, it paid off. After navigating multiple stops, he landed in Dallas and quietly rebuilt his narrative. By 2024, he was averaging 24.7 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 4.6 assists per game. He was knocking down threes at nearly 40% while carrying a heavy scoring load well into his 30s on a Dallas team pushing to contend. That shooting, combined with elite finishing, tight handles, and clutch shot making, kept him among the most dangerous offensive players in the league. But the numbers only tell part of the story. The real victory was respect. Around the league, players started talking about Kyrie differently. Not as someone playing second to another star, but as a peer, a true craftsman. A player younger guys studied and tried to emulate. His footwork, his pull-up timing, the way he manipulated defenders off screens, all of it became a blueprint. Everything elevated from there. When Dallas leaned into him as a leader, they didn't call him the heart and soul just because of scoring. It was because he set the tone in practice, challenged teammates in meetings, and brought a calm, steady confidence into games. That leadership mattered, especially when injuries piled up. The Mavericks knew exactly what they had, and that's why they made it a priority to keep him. Reports later revealed Kyrie declined his player option to sign a new 3-year deal worth around $119 million. That wasn't just business. It was commitment on both sides. Dallas believed in Kyrie, and Kyrie believed in the future they were building together. That mutual trust was all he ever asked from a franchise. Then, in March 2025, everything paused. A torn ACL ended his season and halted the momentum he'd been building. But the injury didn't erase the run, it amplified it. It made clear that Kyrie was in the middle of a real redemption arc before bad luck intervened. At the end of the day, this is the story of a player who walked away from a toxic system, rebuilt himself on the court, earned respect from teammates and rivals, and delivered elite production while staying true to who he was.